Okay, let's unpack this. When you think about the apps on your phone, you probably visualize them a bit like individual storefronts on a quiet street.
Right, yeah, like little self-contained shops.
Exactly. You walk into one, you buy something, maybe play a quick game, and you leave. It feels entirely isolated, like it's just you and the app.
It's a very comforting illusion. I mean, it's designed specifically to hide the underlying mechanics from the user. You're meant to feel like it's a direct, isolated transaction right there on the glass screen.
But if you actually pull back the floorboards of the internet and look underneath, it is definitely not a quiet street of shops.
No, not at all.
It is a massive, chaotic, high-speed superhighway. Every single time you tap your screen, your personal data, your financial routing info, your behavioral telemetry, it all gets instantly fractured into thousands of data packets.
Yeah, and those packets are flying across international borders.
Yeah, right. Bouncing off submarine cables, hitting server farms at the speed of light. And right now, the company is trying to police that superhighway. They are realizing that the old way of doing security is, well, it's entirely broken.
Totally break it, because the tolls and the rules on that highway, they're constantly changing depending on exactly where those data packets land.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, what is completely legal to process in one jurisdiction might trigger a massive corporate fine, like milliseconds later if it hits a server in another country.
Which brings us to our mission for today. Welcome to the Deep Dive. We are looking at a really fascinating transformation happening in the digital economy to solve this exact problem. I've got a fresh stack of sources about a company called AviaGames.
Yeah, they just launched this massive new global trust center in Singapore.
Which is huge. So we're going to use this move to unpack how cybersecurity is rapidly shifting from a quiet, back-end IT issue, the folks in the basement resetting your passwords, to becoming the ultimate currency of the modern tech world.
It really is the ultimate currency now.
Yeah. And whether you are gaming, banking, or just endlessly scrolling, your data is constantly crossing these borders. So this is a highly relevant puzzle to solve for all of us. But to understand why a gaming company is suddenly building this massive trust center rather than just, renting a standard server farm, we first have to look at what AviaGames actually does.
Right.
The sources emphasize they specialize in skill-based, real-money mobile games.
Yeah, and that pairing is key. Real money and skill-based. It fundamentally alters the infrastructure requirements.
How so?
Well, the outcomes in these environments depend entirely on player ability. It is not a digital slot machine. There is no random number generator rolling dice in the background to decide who wins.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's all about human execution, which means the digital environment has to flawlessly capture and measure that execution.
And they're operating this model at a staggering scale. The source material notes they're serving tens of millions of players worldwide.
Tens of millions. Yeah.
Which means the security challenges here are on an entirely different planet compared to like a standard mobile game. I mean, if I'm playing a typical freemium racing app on my phone, and the server drops a few packets, my digital car stutters and crashes.
Right. It's annoying, but totally harmless.
Exactly. But here, you are essentially losing actual money. It's a high-speed digital stock exchange. Every single millisecond of latency, every single user input carries real financial weight.
And what's fascinating here is that financial weight completely rewrites the rules of player trust. When actual currency is exchanging hands based on microscopic differences in human reaction time, trust has to be mathematically engineered into the platform.
It can't just be a promise.
No, it requires three very distinct concrete pillars to function. The first, obviously, is protecting the raw personal and financial data itself.
The credit card numbers, banking details, physical addresses.
Exactly. All of that for millions of concurrent users.
Right. Which feels like just the baseline cost of entry. I mean, if that payload leaks, the business is over.
It's done, yeah. But the second pillar has to be the actual settlement mechanics, the transaction integrity.
Meaning the payouts.
Exactly. If I win a $50 match, that money needs to move flawlessly. Any delay, any dropped connection during the payout phase, and the user instantly suspects they're being scammed.
Oh, for sure. If my screen freezes right when I'm supposed to get paid, I'm deleting the app immediately.
We all would. The settlement speed is critical. There can be no database errors that freeze an account balance. But the third pillar is actually the hardest to maintain at this scale.
Okay, so if you've locked down the data and you've locked down the money transfers, the only vulnerability left is, what, the game environment itself.
You got it. You have to absolutely guarantee competitive fairness. If I'm putting money on my own skill, I have to know with absolute certainty that the person I'm playing against isn't a bot,
Right.
and that they aren't using a packet sniffer to see my moves a fraction of a second before I make them.
Yeah, if someone even suspects the digital environment is compromised, the entire business model collapses. You wouldn't invest your retirement fund in a stock exchange if you knew the brokers on the floor were using software exploits to execute trades a millisecond faster than you.
Exactly. The platform has to guarantee that human skill is the solitary variable deciding the outcome.
Okay, so if you are operating this high-speed exchange for tens of millions of people all over the planet, a scattered, localized IT team spread across a few different time zones is just a massive liability.
Oh, completely unworkable.
Yeah, you can't have a team in one office checking game code while an entirely different team in another country handles the financial APIs.
No, the latency alone between those teams is a vulnerability.
Right. You need a centralized fortress. And looking at the sources, that is exactly what AviaGames is building with this new global trust center.
And where they decided to construct this physical and digital fortress is just as strategically revealing as the technology running inside it. They chose Singapore.
Which makes sense. When you look at the global landscape right now, Singapore is a highly deliberate choice. The sources point out that Singapore is widely recognized as a global leader in regulatory excellence.
Yeah, their digital governance is top tier.
It's a trusted hub for cross-border data flows. But I gotta say, there's a phrase in the source material from their CEO, Vicky Chen, that feels almost like a technical oxymoron to me.
Oh, which one?
She says the goal of this trust center is a major step in global expansion to unify global security standards while simultaneously adapting to regional regulatory requirements.
Right.
How does that work? How can a company logically unify global security standards while simultaneously adapting to regional regulatory requirements without breaking their infrastructure? It sounds like trying to build a single train that runs on 3 different sizes of track at the same time.
It is an incredible architectural balancing act.
Yeah.
But what you're describing is the shift towards centralized governance managing decentralized compliance.
Okay, you're going to have to walk me through the mechanics of that. I mean, if a player in Germany is matching against a player in Brazil, how does this trust center in Singapore actually process that without breaking local laws or slowing down the game?
Well, think of centralized governance as the absolute baseline armor of the entire network. No matter where the data originates, the encryption protocols, the speed of threat detection, the core architectural walls, those are identical.
Okay, so one big shield.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You don't build a weaker, cheaper security layer for a specific region just because their local cybersecurity laws are historically looser. You deploy one incredibly strong, unified system everywhere, managed from the top down.
Because a weak server in a relaxed jurisdiction is still a backdoor into the entire global network. If someone breaches the perimeter there, they have lateral access to everything.
That is the core threat of lateral movement in cloud architecture, yeah. But then you introduce the decentralized compliance layer. This is how the system dynamically handles the flow, the masking, and the storage of that specific data payload. So the player in Germany falls under the General Data Protection Regulation, or GDPR.
Very strict laws.
Very strict. And the player in Brazil falls under the LGPD. The unified security system has localized logic modules that instantly process those differences.
Wait, so the localized module actively formats the data on the fly?
Yes, it acts as an intelligent filter. The core armor encrypts the connection to prevent hacking, but the localized compliance module might actively strip the personally identifiable information, the PII, from the German player's telemetry before it routes to a global analytics server.
Oh, wow.
So it ensures the unified game logic and the threat detection work perfectly, but the data residency laws of Germany are respected because the raw personal data never physically leaves a designated European server.
Which completely explains why Singapore's specific physical and regulatory reputation makes it the perfect anchor for this facility. They sit at the literal and figurative intersection of all these different legal frameworks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Singapore has incredibly rigorous domestic standards, but they also function as a deeply integrated international data conduit. They understand how to speak the complex regulatory languages of both Eastern and Western markets.
Right.
So it provides a highly stable, legally respected anchor for managing that massive routing complexity.
But executing that balancing act, managing the hyper-localized compliance masking while maintaining this impenetrable global armor and doing it across millions of daily financial transactions, that is a staggering computational load.
Oh, it's immense.
Human moderation simply cannot function at that speed. You can't have a human analyst reviewing a flagged payout to check if it complies with Brazilian data laws while simultaneously reviewing the game log to see if the user was employing a cheat script.
No, absolutely not. Human reaction time is measured in seconds or minutes. Cyber threats and high-speed digital transactions operate in milliseconds.
Yes.
By the time a human analyst receives a push notification, reads an alert, and authorizes a quarantine, the financial payload has already been extracted and routed through a dozen offshore crypto wallets.
Which means the human element is actually the bottleneck here. And looking at the sources, AviaGames brought in Dr. John Wang to head the Trust Center. And they specifically highlight his background in highly regulated, massive-scale environments.
Yeah, specifically Amazon Web Services, or AWS.
Right, which is basically the invisible backbone of the internet.
Exactly. When a leader brings AWS experience to a gaming infrastructure, they are bringing the philosophy of infrastructure as code and elastic scalability.
So handling massive, unpredictable traffic.
Yes, engineering systems that scale infinitely during sudden traffic spikes and maintain what the industry calls 5 nines of reliability, which is 99.999% uptime.
Okay, and Wang's stated mandate under this new leadership is to build an automated, agile infrastructure. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. This introduces a concept in our sources that completely shifts how we need to think about digital defense. They call it agentic cybersecurity.
It's a big shift.
Yeah, I mean, when most people think of a cybersecurity system, they picture a traditional security guard. They are sitting in a booth, passively watching a giant bank of monitors just waiting for a red light to flash, and when the alarm goes off, the guard has to figure out the context, grab their radio, and go try to stop the intruder.
A very reactive model.
Right. But agentic cybersecurity is not a passive monitor. I'd compare it to a human biological immune system.
That biological analogy captures the operational shift perfectly.
Right. Think about your own body fighting off a virus. Your immune system doesn't send a push notification to your brain asking for permission to attack. It doesn't generate a daily quarantine report for you to review over coffee.
Right, you'd be dead by then.
Exactly. It silently identifies the anomaly at the microscopic level, deploys white blood cells, and actively destroys the threat before you even realize you were infected. You just go about your day completely unaware of the war that was just fought and won inside your bloodstream.
And that's the key. The defining characteristic of this technology is the word agentic. It means having agency.
Taking action.
Exactly. Traditional security systems are entirely diagnostic. They utilize heuristic scanning to see a known problem, flag it, generate a detailed log, and then wait for a human analyst to intervene.
Which, like we said, is way too slow.
In a real money environment, a report generated for tomorrow morning is completely useless. The agentic system utilizes autonomous response playbooks.
Wait, really? If it has the agency to act without a human, how does it know what to look for without just blindly matching a list of known viruses? Like, how does it spot a human cheating in a game versus a human just playing really, really well?
Because it analyzes behavioral telemetry in real time. A human playing a mobile game has a specific organic heartbeat of interaction. There is micro-hesitation. There are slight variations in where their thumb hits the glass.
Okay.
The gyroscope in the phone registers tiny hand tremors.
And a bot doesn't have hand tremors.
Exactly. A malicious script sends a mathematically perfect input to the screen every 12.4 milliseconds. It never tires and never hesitates. The agentic system ingests that telemetry payload.
And if it detects that robotic input,
It doesn't just flag the user, it executes a quarantine playbook instantly. It might freeze the specific suspicious transaction, isolate that single server node, and dynamically reroute the clean traffic so the millions of honest players don't even experience a frame drop in their game. It neutralizes the threat entirely on its own authority.
hold on, giving an AI the autonomy to isolate servers and freeze real money mid-transaction, that's a massive leap. I mean, if the AI hallucinates or gets a false positive, it could accidentally shut down half the server and block thousands of legitimate payouts. The parameters would have to be flawlessly tuned.
That is exactly why the machine learning models have to be so sophisticated. And frankly, why you need a centralized hub in Singapore to constantly train those models on global data.
Right.
You simply cannot scale a digital business today without giving your security infrastructure the agency to fight back in real time. The operational disruption of a human-led response is just too high.
Which really brings the massive ripple effect into focus here. This new trust center, the deployment of agentic AI, Dr. Wang's AWS-style scaling, it isn't just AviaGames doing some internal house cleaning.
No, it represents a structural shift sweeping across the entire digital economy.
Yeah, our sources note that this hub is a massive investment in regional talent, creating a huge demand for local cybersecurity professionals in Southeast Asia. But looking at the macro level, security is no longer a mere back-end concern. It's evolving into a core business function. It's not the heavy locked door on the back of the warehouse anymore.
Right, it's the front display window.
Exactly. So what does this all mean for you, the listener? Are we entering an era where consumers will actually shop for mobile apps and platforms based primarily on the robustness of their security architecture rather than just, the gameplay or the features?
Oh, absolutely. If we connect this to the bigger picture, trust is now an offensive business strategy.
Yeah.
Historically, trust was just implicitly assumed by the consumer until a massive data breach made headlines. Security was invisible.
Yeah, you didn't think about it until it failed.
Right. But now, building a comprehensive ecosystem of trust tightly integrating data protection, localized compliance, and uninterrupted user experience is a highly visible, marketable product feature.
Which makes sense. I mean, if I'm choosing between two banking apps or two skill-based gaming platforms, I am actively choosing the platform that proves its AI can protect my money better than the competitor.
Because user confidence directly dictates revenue in the modern tech landscape. The friction of switching platforms is virtually zero. Alternatives are always just one click away.
Yeah, it takes 2 seconds to delete an app.
Exactly. If an app is incredibly engaging, but your payment method gets flagged erroneously because their localized compliance is clunky, you delete the app. If you suspect your opponent is using an exploit and the platform's manual moderation is too slow to ban them, you take your money elsewhere.
You just can't separate the product from the vault anymore. The security infrastructure is the only thing that guarantees the product can actually function as advertised. If the vault is cracked, the game basically ceases to exist.
Which forces companies to continuously invest. The Global Trust Center is an acknowledgement that regulatory compliance and threat neutralization are the strategic foundations for long-term corporate growth everywhere.
It's a complete paradigm shift. I mean, we started today looking at a mobile gaming company managing high-stakes, real-money matches. We unpacked the immense technical pressure of latency and data sovereignty that forced them to travel to Singapore to centralize their global compliance.
Right, unifying that baseline armor.
And we explored the sci-fi reality of autonomous agentic cybersecurity acting as a silent digital immune system, right? Analyzing thumb micro movements to destroy threats in milliseconds. And ultimately, we discovered how trust has transformed into the ultimate digital currency.
The evolution of these systems is technically staggering. But, looking at the trajectory of this technology, especially when combining highly competitive, skill-based environments with hyper-vigilant autonomous AI, a fascinating tension emerges.
Oh, like what?
Well, if this agentic cybersecurity becomes increasingly advanced at autonomously detecting anomalies to ensure total fairness, it is constantly refining its definition of what normal human play looks like.
Right. It's building an incredibly narrow baseline of average human reaction times.
So what happens when a human player defies that average? Could these systems eventually become so strict that they mistake genuine, extraordinary human skill for a fraudulent bot?
Oh, wow. Like a player simply being unexpectedly brilliant at the game. They enter a flow state, the reaction time spikes, and the AI just flags them as non-human because they deviate too far from the mean.
Exactly. If a player's just having the absolute game of their life, does the autonomous immune system isolate their server and freeze their payout to protect the ecosystem? In the relentless quest for absolute digital fairness, how do we ensure the machines don't end up punishing the exact exceptional human ability the platform was built to reward?
Man, the digital immune system accidentally attacking the healthiest, highest performing cells because they look too perfect. That is a wild, complex technical frontier to monitor as these agentic systems take over the superhighway. Well, we want to thank you, the listener, for joining us on this deep dive. As always, keep questioning the mechanics of the digital world around you. Look under the floorboards of the platforms you trust with your data, and we'll catch you on the next one.